Hello students, today our lecture about early processes and war photography. As a quick review, two men created a permanent photography process, although people were able to project images since Al-Hussein camera in 1000 AD. It was not until 1724 when John Henrich discovered the silver colorida called react to light that people started to try to make a permanent image. Also, Joseph Nevornivs created the first permanent image around 1824, but it was not until he joined together with Louis Daguerreau that they made a truly permanent image, which they produced on a copper pellet and called daguerreotypes. They gave this to the French government in 1839. Meanwhile, William Henry Fox Talbot had created the calotype, a paper-based image, in 1835, but never reached much success. Why daguerreotypes over calotypes? The daguerreotypes quickly became successful around the world. Why did people prefer them over the calotype of Talbot? The first reason, the French government gave the daguerreotype technology away free, so that anyone in the world could read from them how to make it and create their own studio, whereas Talbot was asking for money for his process. The second reason, the daguerreotype was on a copper pellet, and it created a much clearer image than the calotype, which was on a paper but not as clear. So that's why daguerreotypes over calotypes. Thought the daguerreotype beat out the calotype as the preferred system. It was in a way an easy system. The technician had to have training in the complicated system of chemicals and equipment, yet that did not stop thousands of daguerreotype shops from opening in America and Europe. For the first time in history, people began to view themselves and others in a single visual way. In the years following the success of the daguerreotype, many other processes came, all with small differences, but the overall process and idea remained the same. Among these was the most famous wet pellet collodion, created by Frederick Scott Archer in 1850. This replaced the daguerreotype, and by 1855, almost all studios had changed their process to the wet collodion process. This process was on glass and produced a very clear image, much clearer than the daguerreotype, and remained popular until nearly 1900. Another technological advance which came in the same time period was albumen paper invented by Louis Disciple Ever. From this paper, copies of wet collodion pellets could be made. Now images could be copied into hundreds or thousands of the same image into albumen paper without losing the quality of the image. This was the first step into visual mass media. After the invention of the albumen paper came the carte de visite, known in America as the Cuban card. This was a small card which could be bought in any shop. The usual subject on the cards included famous people such as politicians, writers, and theater actors. Additionally, cards had images of famous places such as the Eiffel Tower or the pyramids of Egypt. For the first, the buying and trading images that show them life in other parts of the world and famous people of the time. The world changed into major ways after album paper. In advertising, companies around the world saw the politician expressing their message in images rather than words or drawings. For billboards to newspaper adverts, this began the overwhelming visual marketing societies we know live in today. At the same time that societies were becoming comfortable with understanding in a more visual manner as opposite to writing, a never before seen part of society was revealed the terrible reality of war. Three men are known as the first photographers of war when they documented the American Civil War, such as Matthew Brady, Alexander Gordon, and Timothy Sullivan. Politics also changed. Abraham Lincoln was the first politician who used an image to persuade people in an election. American society had already become used to including politicians. Since this time, societies have insisted on connected with politicians in a visual way, judging them not only on their political ideas but also on their appearance. Abraham was often described as having like apple face and looking honest. This is some pictures showing experiencing war. At the end of the war, society had experienced in a very different way the worst part of humanity. From this, Alexander Grandal produced one of the first photographic books called Sketch Book of the War. In a sense, it is the first historical use of images to preserve an event. It should also be noted that Brady and Gordon, who once worked together, began to fight over image use. Brady often used Gordon images while using own name under them. This brought for the first time the idea of who owns an image and whether or not an image idea a part of society or belong to one person. How has photography changed Omani society? This is some pictures show His Majesty image during his life. Finally, I will talk about major changes through photography. First, Elboman prints and visual mass media, which would later develop into the mass media we have now, where general public spends time in their day looking at images of famous people or themselves. Secondly, societies became used to seeing their leaders. They have learned to understand and judge their leaders by visual representation. Third, people saw in mass other places from around the world, as well as war was no longer seen only by people fighting but all of society. In addition, the first photo book was made. Finally, history began to be recorded visually with the first large event after the invention of photography, the American Civil War. That's all about today. Thank you very much for your listen.